In this video, we are going to talk about flowcharts. So, what are flowcharts? Flowcharts are often used as a program planning tool to visually organize the step-by-step process of a program. Flowcharts can be used to describe all sorts of processes such as business, educational, personal, and of course, algorithms. To understand flowcharts, here's an example. Let's say we need to calculate the area of a circle. In algorithm, it is like this. Step 1, start. Step 2, input radius of the circle or the arc. Step 3, use the formula pi r squared and store result in a variable, let's say variable area. Step 4, print area. Step 5, stop. While in flowcharting, it is like this. Another example, let's say we need to determine whether a student passed the exam or not. In algorithm, it is like this. Step 1, input grades of 4 courses, M1, M2, M3, and M4. Step 2, calculate the average grade with formula grade is equal to M1 plus M2 plus M3 plus M4 divided by 4. Step 3, if the average grade is less than 60, print fail, else print pass. While in flowcharting, it is like this. We can see again the start, input, which is the M1, M2, M3, and M4, the grade M1 plus M2 plus M3 plus M4 divided by 4. Then we have the decision grade. If the student fail or the student pass, then the end. So now that we have an idea about how the flowchart looks like, let's talk about the shapes or the symbols that you've seen earlier. First, we have the oval shape, which is to start or stop. It is used at the beginning and end of the algorithm to show start and end of the program. Next, we have the rectangle or the process. It indicates processes like mathematical operations. We also have the parallelogram or the input or output. It is used for denoting program inputs and outputs. Next, we have the diamond or the decision. It stands for decision statements in a program where answer is usually yes or no. Next, we have the arrow. It shows relationships between different shapes. We also have circle or the on-page connector. It connects two or more parts of a flowchart which are on the same page. And the last one, we have the off-page connector. It connects two parts of a flowchart which are spread over different pages. Now that we know the flowcharting itself, how are flowcharts used in computer programming? Professionals in data processing world are using flowcharts to flesh out programming logic. Flowcharts will be a visual representation of a certain idea mostly used on programming algorithm. However, the use of flowcharts is not that common as it was before because of the advent of object-oriented programs and other visual modeling tools. With that being said, flowcharts are still effective as it was before. For example, a complex programming logic can be effectively modeled using a flowchart, and diagramming a programmer's idea is a prerequisite for an efficient generation of documentation for a program. Procedural programming is one of the best concepts that uses the application of flowcharting. In creating or developing a flowchart, you should definitely consider these important points. First, use consistent design elements. The shape, lines, and text should be consistent. Shapes must have the same size as the other shapes and they should be uniformly aligned. This will make the flowchart easier to follow. Second, keep everything on one page if possible. It is good to keep the flowchart in a single page and remains readable. But if the flowchart becomes too large to fit in one page, it is advisable to divide it into multiple charts and connect them with hyperlinks. In relation, we have letter A. Try scaling it down. But remember that once you scale it down, the font will also adjust, so make sure to scale it right. B. Depending on the number of steps, you can also have your chart flow left to right, then down to a subsequent line where it continues. And C. Use hyperlinks to a certain chart. In doing so, you can provide a summary that may also have more steps or sub-processes. The third one is flow the data from left to right so it's easier to read and comprehend for the readers. Fourth, use split path or the diamond shape instead of traditional decision symbol. By using the split path, it divides the flow but will still continue from left to right. Fifth, place return line below the flow diagram. It is logical to place the return line below instead of above the flow diagram. Make sure that you don't overlap. A flowchart can help visualize the steps in a system including inputs, outputs, and loops. Before you write code, you can use a flowchart to create a diagram of the steps in your algorithm and evaluate any potential issues with your logic. Good programming requires preparation. A great way to prepare before writing even one line of code, especially for the beginner, is using a flowchart. Visual representation of a program using flowchart symbols can increase your understanding of the program flow. This also makes it easier to read, reducing the number of errors in your program, as well as reducing the amount of time you spend troubleshooting. And now, we're going to explain and give an example for each structure of the flowchart. First, we have sequence. Starting from the start shape, the arrows will simply lead to the next step until it reaches the end. It is the simplest way of flowcharting. Next, we have decision. It has two paths that can be yes or no, and true or false. We also have for loop. In this example, the task is performed 10 times as x counts from 0 to 10. It depends on the condition. The task may not perform at all. And the last one is case structure or selection structure. The decision works fine if you have only two outputs, but if there are several, then using multiple decisions makes the chart too busy. Since the case structure can be constructed using the decision structure, it is superfluous but useful. The case structure helps make a flowchart more readable and save space on the paper. Before we end this video, let us thank the following sources who made this video possible.